break, the short break, and then come back on, thinking that maybe that will mean that I'll get that 45 minutes or 50 minutes of continuity back on each one. Thinking that maybe that will mean that I'll get that 45 minutes or 50 minutes of continuity back on each one. Thinking that maybe that will mean that I'll get that 45 minutes or 50 minutes of.
So, good morning. I'm sorry. Beginning the live stream, I muted everyone, but lovely to see everybody this morning. And I'm thrilled that so many people were able to do the 3 palms with the video. And now, Kathy, if you'd like to put up the prayer book. As we anticipate 9 o'clock, silently contemplating the 4 dharmas of Gampopa,
thank you, Annie, for being our Umze today. Thank you. Okay, you can start.
All sentient beings, obstacles on my path.
I'm sorry, Annie, there's something wrong with your audio.
I think, Kathy, can you turn off your audio? I don't think it's me that's making that noise.
I
There we
think,
go.
Kenmo, it was you. I'm sorry.
Oh, Kenmo's mute. Okay. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. As earth and the other elements, together with space, eternally provide sustenance in many ways for the countless sentient beings, so may I become sustenance in every way for sentient beings, to the limits of space, until all have attained nirvana. As the Sugatas of old gave birth to the bodhicitta and progressively established themselves in the training of a bodhisattva, so I too, for the benefit of beings, shall give birth to that bodhicitta and progressively train myself in that discipline. At this moment, my life has become fruitful. I have realized my human life. Today, I am born into the family of the Buddhas. Now I am a child of the Buddhas. From now on, I will forthrightly perform the actions befitting my family. I will act so as not to degrade the faultlessness and discipline of my family. Just as with a blind man finding a jewel in a heap of dust, thus somehow bodhicitta has been born in me. This is the supreme Amrita which destroys death, the inexhaustible treasure which removes the world's poverty. It is the supreme medicine which cures the world's sickness, the tree which provides rest for beings weary of wandering on the paths of existence. It is the it is the universal bridge on which all travelers may pass over the lower realms. The rising moon of mind which dispels the torment of the kleshas. It is the great sun which puts an end to the obscurity of ignorance, the pure butter which comes of churning the milk of the holy Dharma. For travelers wandering the paths of existence, seeking happiness from objects of enjoyment, it is supreme bliss near at hand, the great feast which satisfies sentient beings. Today, witnessed by all the protectors, I have welcomed the sentient beings and Sugatas. Devas and Asuras rejoice. May all mother sentient beings, boundless of the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Welcome, everyone. Kathy, can you just give me a thumbs up if the sound is okay? Great. So Zoom is a miracle, and there is always something. So how wonderful to be together again this Sunday. And on this, in Maine, it's one of the gorgeous sunny days with the calm ocean. So seeing that calm emotion, we're going to talk about seeing the calm ocean, we're going to talk about emotions as objects of meditation. And I think it's really important to do that today because we finished the instructions for shamatha, and in the discussion of the signs of accomplishment of shamatha, we heard words like, well, now you don't have emotions that drag you away, and there's no struggle. And in Trungpa Rinpoche's commentary, there is so far not a direct exploration of emotions, but I suspect there will be in the Vipassana section. However, in Pema's book, there is a beautifully elaborated section on emotions as objects of meditation. And of course, because I trained with her, my understanding of how to work with emotions is certainly based in how she trains. And at the same time, this book was written a decade after my training. So the way she presents it had nuances that were really beautiful to explore. So we often present emotions, at the subtle level as pleasant and unpleasant, and at the larger level as addiction and aggression. And we certainly can recognize those in our life, but if we were to put everything together in a way that we might be, traveling through our day as well as traveling through our meditation session, we might also recognize emotions as hope and fear. And often, if we can have some perspective, it's like our lives are a ping pong table, and it's hope, fear, hope, fear, hope, fear. And, I think if we go just back a week to the assassination attempt and just recall what it was like to hear about that moment of crisis and political instability, it's very easy to contact hope, fear, hope, fear, hope, fear as a collective, not only country experience, but world experience. At the same time, if we look at what we're currently navigating as individuals, for instance, I have a plan to go on a picnic after this practice. I looked at my phone and it says, well, it's going to be beautifully clear till 1 o'clock when you're having your picnic, and then it's going to rain. Hope, fear, hope, fear, hope, fear. So it's not just the big things, it's the small things. Our mind is constantly distracted away from the present moment into hope and fear. And then let's say we bring this into our meditation practice. And in our meditation practice, I hope I'm going to have a nice experience today. I hope I'm not going to be distracted as I usually am. Or, gee, in my meditation life, I hope I'm going to become a different person. I want to be a kind of person that's never angry, always peaceful. And I don't want to be the person that is always struggling, always angry, always fearful, always addicted, whatever adjective you might use. You know, what if I meditate forever and I'm never at peace? So it's very easy to bring hope and fear right into our meditation practice. And that you can see might be the impetus for being judgmental or critical about meditation, which can be, as we know, counterproductive. So how do we look at these emotions that are passing through our mind, that are seemingly controlling our mind, seemingly inescapable? And Pema Chodron goes right to the teacher Punlap Rinpoche. He's very, very clear. In order to experience our Buddha nature, we have to get our hands dirty. And, this has certainly been her teaching throughout the decades. We have to go right into these emotions. And he goes further, it's only by really tasting the experience of your emotion that you get a taste of enlightenment. Buddha nature includes everything and is found in the midst of everything. So this can be an open door. We want to get in the mud. We want to see what's going on. We want to uncover our emotions and not repress them, not repress everything. And to hear that Buddha nature enlightenment is in the midst of this is a really freeing instruction. Because we may have thought, and we see many, many people confused by spiritual practice, thinking that it has to do with repressing. You go to a community and everybody looks like they're smiling a lot and everything. Oh, this is not a difficulty. This is a challenge. Or we know that the confusion of even spiritual leaders to spiritual bypassing. I've reached perfection, so everything I do is spiritual enlightenment, even if it's abusing my students. There's a bypassing of, I don't have to deal with this one thing because I'm so great. So it's only common sense to see that's a really big trap. We have to get our hands dirty and go into our emotions and find out what that dance is about. So Pema Chodron studied with Trungpa Rinpoche, and for her teachings on emotions, she goes back to, one sentence he said that changed her life, that emotions are made out of energy and thoughts. And he compared energy as the water and thoughts to pigment. And when they become mixed, they become these vivid, colorful emotions, that it's the mixture of the energy and our narrative, our conceptual thoughts. So we can see that, okay. And, those of you who've been attending these talks, that we have worked with this training from Pema for years and years and years. We see that the thoughts escalate the drama. We see that dropping the story is the instruction, but that's difficult and painful. We see that we have all kinds of habits. But I feel like in this particular book, How to Meditate, she goes into, just not new instructions, but making them more clear. She says that our concepts give the energy a particular location, a particular relationship. That relationship is unclear. We have all of this wild energy, and we have thoughts about it, and the lack of clarity is where we start to create our ego and our strategy. That, well, there's energy and there are thoughts, and the drama involves energy, and the drama involves a narrative. I am feeling, they did this, etc., etc. And the energy is, in my body, I am feeling, in my whole felt sense, I am feeling. So they come together, making at first a core eye, then a bigger eye, and a bigger eye, and a bigger eye, a whole, we would say a whole ball of wax, or a whole yarn of confusion. One of those skeins of yarn that's in a tight ball. So in our meditation sessions, everything arises. We're heading towards stability of shamatha. We're seeing breath to breath to breath, and then a thought arises, a thought mixed with this energy, an emotion then arises, and it has a quality of stickiness. And let's say some might be like a cloud, not a big deal. But some are like tornadoes, and they absolutely pull us away every single time. So the instructions are to get a felt sense of what's happening, not to think about it, because the thinking about it pulls in the drama. But what if we go for a felt sense? And another way of expressing this is a non-verbal sense. So her cue is drop the storyline, but the details are, what is your non-verbal experience? Let's say with the assassination, which is pretty easy to recall, like a fear, a dread, you don't have to take sides. That was a moment of just instability that, I can have at this moment a nonverbal sensation in my heart, just recalling that memory. So there may be a physicality, a location, and exploring that I can also feel it in my solar plexus, and there's a sensation of contraction. So I don't know how to describe that little feeling I just got in my heart, but in my solar plexus, I can feel some contraction. They have different textures. In my heart, it was like a flutter, and in my solar plexus, it's like a fist. So what she's inviting, and what Ponlop Rinpoche is inviting, is, first of all, we're not avoiding anything, avoiding any experience. Enlightenment is in the midst of samsara. It's made up of all of life, not trying to eliminate any part of life. It's fully present. So knowing your mind well and knowing how to bring it into a nonverbal experience, and then in that context, exploring the structure of your strategies and the structure of your relation to it, to see, why is this particular trigger so consuming? And she said in her book, and I can relate to this because often in her training sessions at Gampo Abbey, she was very personal, that one time she took one of her normal triggers, and after a while you see that, after years of meditation, we see, okay, whenever this situation comes up, I'm triggered. And she followed it back to see that she had constructed her entire ego strategies. It became her personality, let's say. All of that was constructed so she never felt this particular emotion. So what becomes very, very interesting is seeing how a particular kind of emotion can have a core in early childhood. And we have constructed a whole personality and a consistent habitual tendency around not feeling this particular kind of feeling. So of course we can't open our hearts and mind if there's a part of life that we have a cement case around that I am never going to go there. I can have all of life, but not that. And not only am I not ever going to go there, I'm going to have a million strategies to never go there. So recently I had an extraordinary healing moment with His Holiness, Chetsang Rinpoche. And I had a similar kind of emotional healing. I was speaking with him about the effect of cultural sexism on the nuns. And it was a moment to say, directly to him, this is an obstacle and it has to be addressed. And in his compassionate listening, I thought I was speaking for the nuns of India, and I thought I had been handling my experience of sexist monks, fairly well. But in that moment, because he was just openly listening, there was a dropping away. And I realized, as a tiny child, let's say 5 years old, I was aware of someone saying, no, girls can't do that. And my child saying, well, that's wrong. Yes, I can. You're wrong. And in my life, I chose wildly challenging situations, learning welding as a sculptor. And what do you mean? What do you mean girls can't be a blacksmith? Not only will I do it, I'm going to build my own forge and my own hammers. So it was this, no that got larger and larger. And then, of course, when I, in meditation, realized the extent of it, I went through many, many, many layers. But this was like a dropping away into freedom from it. And such a sigh of, wow, I have certainly worked on this, but I haven't experienced freedom from it. And the release and the openness certainly was in the moment with his compassionate medicine. So it's not avoiding, it is working with things layer by layer by layer, and then a moment in meditation, a moment with an enlightened teacher. There are many ways to a breakthrough and a release, but it's not by stuffing it, strategizing with it, or bypassing it. So then she goes on to say, that which is threatening to the ego is a liberation to the heart. And this is a quote from Ajahn Amaro. I'm just going to repeat it. You know, this instruction, let's get our hands dirty. Let's look at the level of resistance, struggle, anger, numbness, escapism. Let's look at these things and our strategies to run away, because it is liberating to the heart. And she picks it apart and she says, a strong emotion, it distracts you away from the present moment, away from your breath, but it doesn't mean it distracts you as a doorway into the felt sense. It leads you away from the present moment and the felt sense into your strategies of escape. The distraction, however you work with it, is a strategy for moving away from the present moment. So the additional key instruction she's giving here, which is so beautiful, is we certainly have experienced breathing in and breathing out. And at a subtle level, there is a pause between breathing in and breathing out. Also, we have noticed in our shamatha practice, there is the distraction, there is the all of a sudden realization that I'm distracted, and there's this open moment. Then we come back to focusing on the breath. There are these spaces. So her invitation is to look at the pause between the emotion arising and our reverting into habitual patterns and strategies to avoid that emotion. So it's just that moment. The emotion arising, there is, before the trigger, before how am I going to respond to this, there's an open moment. So we can see in that open moment, not only is a habitual pattern trying to rev up, there's a variety of them. It may be, I'm going to relieve this moment. He said that, she said that, but I'm right. Or, oh, this is just such bad news, I'm going to ice cream. Or, I can't bear to experience that, I'm going to switch on the radio, the TV, I'm going to switch into busyness, switch into work. So in that open moment, we can see, oh, wow, I've developed lots and lots of strategies not to feel this. And then we can ask ourselves, really, can I just do, not even a minute, can I do 5 seconds of feeling this? Can I make it so, I wouldn't say welcoming, can I make it so less scary that I can try 5 minutes of this core emotion or any emotion? And can I see the difference between the strategies which involve conceptual thoughts a lot of the time, or physical activities, a distraction of any kind? Can I pause that and just say, all right, what is the nonverbal experience right now? Energy has a location. Can I just feel this moment for what it is? And honestly, in my life, when I first began this training with Venerable Pema Chodron, I was working with an extremely difficult situation. And I literally thought sitting on my cushion for 10 seconds felt like sitting on a hot stove. But oh my goodness, 25 years later, oh, well, you know, anything can be worked with. Can I, how long can I work with? And can I have the awareness of the triggers arising? Can I just sit with this and not go right into it? The inner ogres, for the most part, are familiar because I know them well. Doesn't mean they're easy, but I know them well. So I'm going to invite us all to take a minute and work with an exercise. So we'll start with a few minutes of shamatha, and then I'll invite you, you know, that assassination attempt is very recent. So if that works to recall that very recent feeling, fine. Or if you have another favorite that's up for you, no problem. It could even be a pleasant feeling. But let's take 5 minutes to settle our minds so that we can be aware enough to see that pause, that space between the in-breath and the out-breath, that space between the emotion arising and our thoughts about it, our thoughts that escalate it, distract it, etc. Okay. Returning to your breath. Adjusting your posture. Feeling friendly and curious about whatever is arising. Your state of restlessness, sleepiness, nothing's a problem. You can count your breaths, counting the exhale, moving from distraction by anchoring with counting or the sensation around your nose. Just feeling the sensation of the breath just here, not making more thoughts about it. Now you're free to bring up any emotion, but I'm going to guide us with that very recent collective experience. So remember what it was like last Saturday. You may have been watching TV and having a news interruption. Someone may have called you. And put yourself right in that moment again. And move from, all the TV videos repeating, all the newscasters, all the commentary, to what your felt experience was, what your nonverbal felt experience. Does it have a location somewhere in your body? Does it have many locations? Can you stay in the nonverbal felt sense until those felt body experiences of the energy in your body change and dissolve? And just notice, have they changed in intensity? Have some aspects dissolved? You may notice your attention wanting to be distracted. Is it hope or fear as a category? Is it numbness as a category? Are you rushing to watch every news channel? Are you turning the TV off and calling lots of friends and discussing it? What is the space in between the emotion arising and the strategy to not be in the felt sense. What is your felt sense now? Okay, returning to shamatha. So whether in meditation or as we're navigating our lives, we can see a dynamic emotion arise. We can see that it's made out of this wild combination of our narrative, our thoughts, and wild energies. And as we become more practiced, we can see there is a moment in between before we enact our strategies. And we're actually choosing our strategy. So when we can see that space, we can choose to move into the present moment, not away from it. We can choose to get further angry or addicted or whatever. We can choose numbness. We can choose mental screaming with friends screaming. There's a range of strategies, but there's also, in that open space, the choice to stay in that present moment. And really see, eventually over time, the repeating triggers, our big ones, what is the release from that? That is an uprooting. So the extraordinary thing about that moment with His Holiness that I was talking about was, so far, my experience is that it was an uprooting. I'm not returning to that trigger. Of course, I haven't seen a lot of the monks yet, or let's say the problematic monks. But so interesting. Meditation is so interesting. So we'll do a quick dedication and then start a dialogue away from the live stream. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.